Okay, Michael, welcome. How are you today?
Good, good, good. Thank you so much for.
Good. Yeah, I'm really excited for this because, like I told you when we talked earlier, I've really wanted to have someone on the podcast who is a parent of a child with autism, and that has not happened yet. And so I'm looking forward to our conversation because I know a lot of our listeners are probably feeling a lot of the things that you and your wife feel on a day-to-day basis, right? So, but before we jump into that, I kind of gave away our topic. That's okay. That's okay. It's fine. Before we jump into that, can you just introduce yourself to the listeners?
Of course, of course. So, it's Michael Pereira. I'm father of two beautiful children. One of them who was diagnosed 3 years and a half ago on the spectrum. He's mild. He's six now. It's gonna be seven next month. His name is Christian. And I
Mm,
also have my daughter who is 3 years old. As of the moment, neurotypical, but she does have a couple of behaviors, obviously learned from her brother.
yeah.
But yeah, that's first and foremost. And secondly, I'm a financial professional who focuses on helping families like mine.
Okay. And you're married?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
My wife, she's the champion. Now she's a RBT. Before,
Oh,
yeah, yeah, before she was a stay-at-home mom.
okay.
We decided that we wanted to be even more present, much more than me just leaving corporate. So
Hmm.
we as a family decided, okay, what can we do? So we planned my side, which is what I'm doing today. And from her side, she said, okay, I want to do something that, I can assist or support a little bit more
Hmm.
Christian, our son. And she just became an RBT. She took the I think it's like 40 hours of certificate, and then she got the license. She works as a RBT, but it initially started to see if she can learn techniques to help Christian in his day to day.
Okay.
We truly believe that the therapy truly starts in home.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool that she did that. And that probably honestly has helped with what you guys are doing in the
Oh yeah,
home.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot. Even for us, not only helping Christian in the day to day and redirecting him, but just us to understand the parenting, right? How
Hmm.
we incorporate several stuff, the prompts and all that. So but it's a very, very nice dynamic.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Well, I just want to jump right in if that's okay,
Sure.
because we have limited time and
Yeah,
I have a lot that I want to talk about, so I don't want
perfect.
to have to like so I would love for you to just start with telling us what what was life like before the diagnosis? Like what did you see? What were some of the behaviors or things that you saw with Christian that made you and your wife kind of think like, huh, what's going
Yeah,
on here?
yeah. Around 1 year old, we started noticing symptoms like, for example, tiptoeing, al-
Okay.
aligning stuff. And when I say aligning stuff, from bottles of water to his any type of toys, no matter the size, it's going to be aligned.
Okay.
So we started noticing stuff. Plus, he was nonverbal in the sense that even though he was young, 1 year old, but each time we would go to the doctor, he would say, "Hey, he should be, a number of words by this age."
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
we noticed that it was not even near what he was supposed to, right? So uh, time passed by. We also went through our own phases of denial.
Hmm. Hmm. What
So
did that look like?
denial.
Yeah. What did that
Uh,
look like for you guys?
I tough because it affects your ego.
Hmm.
It affects the way you receive information in the sense that something that I would say any family should watch out for is who you're listening to.
Hmm.
Because it can be even family. And in our case, it was some family that say, "Hey, don't worry, you were the same." And look at,
Oh.
or my wife, "Don't worry, you were the same." And look at you, you guys are okay, right? And I say, "Yeah,
Hmm.
but I didn't tiptoe.
Hmm.
I was at least a couple of words." So I think that denial accompanied by advice that wasn't the best, even though it was the best intention. Our family is the
Hmm.
best. My mom, everybody, my mom is the best grandmother there is.
Mm.
But it doesn't mean that it become because it comes from the best intention is the advice we need.
Yeah.
We need it. So that's dangerous because when you have denial plus that advice, you can procrastinate any early intervention, and
Yeah.
that's dangerous, right? So the way it looked in denial for us was that exactly that same thing. Just okay, well, I don't want to hear this, but at the same time, my family's saying that was more or less the same. My
Mm-hmm.
wife's family is saying that this, and so let's wait and let's
Mm-hmm.
and obviously, COVID came by. I was able to not travel because I traveled a lot in my employment.
Okay.
So I was able to stay here and see a lot of those symptoms, but I also saw a lot of symptoms reduce because I was here.
Yeah.
Um, a long story short, it was a really phase that took some time, but I think we were always open to support him and it came to a point that we needed to say, you know what, if if we're s- if we're going to stay so long in denial, that talks about how selfish we are because we're not thinking about, his best interest. Because if
Mm-hmm.
I'm only thinking about what I feel, what I want to hear, it's going to affect my ego. I say
Mm-hmm.
my it's it takes a toll
Yeah.
on any intervention. So just leave everything in God's hands and then just win and then try to do everything we could to support him. And that ended up in him being diagnosed. Long story
Uh,
short, there's a lot that happened, but
yeah, for sure. Well, so a couple questions with that. One, was there anybody in that time that was saying like, "Hey, you might want to have him assessed?" There, was there anybody that was speaking that into your lives?
it came to a point that those same family members that said, "Hey, you were the same," it came to a point that say, "Hey, you got it right."
Okay, interesting.
But
Yeah.
yeah, because with time evolves. You can see that if there's no progress or there's any regression, you can see that. But I would say it wasn't a lot of people, and I think why these type of conversations are very important is because not a lot of people talk about it, not even
Mm-hmm.
in family, because there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people that say, "Hey, that's not my problem. I
Yeah.
really don't want to butt in. I really don't want to say anything just in case if it's too delicate." But in reality, if you do love that person, you gotta find a way.
Yeah.
Um, I would say you gotta find a way to at least share it in one way somehow because at the end of the day it's the child's progress, right?
Yeah. Okay, so then what were your first steps? What did you do to move towards a diagnosis?
um we scheduled a meeting with the neurologist and so forth. Obviously here I'm in Miami and
Yeah.
I don't know why each time we would schedule a meeting it would be months in advance because there was
Yeah.
like it was tough, right? So but thankfully we were able to move progress and get an appointment. And obviously when the medical professionals saw Christian and they knew. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
knew. Right now you see him, he's highly functional, a lot of energy. He's not conversational yet, so you can ask him, "Hey, how are you?" He's going to say Kung Fu Panda or Shrek or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he's talking, but not conversational. He can't say what he thinks in this way that if he sees something and say, "Oh," he can describe it, but he you can still not have a conversation with him.
Mm-hmm.
So the medical professionals knew and immediately he was diagnosed. And from there on, I think that it was weird because from going to denial and going to that several medical appointments, I was like, oh my God, like I really didn't want to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
But after I heard it, I was okay. So
Mm-hmm.
now I understand and it's not that bad, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then comes the acceptance phase, right? Now I
Yeah.
accept it. Now what we do now,
Yeah.
should I tell everybody or shouldn't I? Should I start looking for different opinions or just remain with the one I have? Uh,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of conversation that goes around that phase, that time period when he gets newly diagnosed, and you start thinking not only about the present but also future.
Mm-hmm.
Because you start
Yeah.
asking questions like, what happens if, he cannot be independent or
Yeah.
and a lot of stuff just goes through your mind.
Yeah, I think and honestly, that's one of the things that I hear not just with kiddos on the spectrum, but families that I work with that have kiddos with other, special needs, fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, or just some developmental delays that and honestly, like this is my husband and I do this too with our son, which is we tend to do just that. Like, what is it going to look like when they're, you know, are they going to graduate high school on time? Are we just actually we're talking about like driving because we have our 15-year-old daughter is starting to drive, and so it was kind of this like, what are we going to do when our son is that will we have him drive, or are we going to have him wait till he's 18? Those things that you go there, but should we be going there, or do we just need to be present in the moment?
I think you should because
Yeah.
yeah, because around those conversations, you're also going to think about what happens if you're not there anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we started to think about, like, okay, perfect. Now we know. Now let's move forward. Let's get a plan. Let's do everything we need to do. Let's get more, I'm sorry, more acquainted with the IP.
Mm-hmm.
Let's learn little bit more and be more present. But also you think about, okay, what if I'm not here? What if, my wife's not here?
Yeah.
Who's going to be the guardian? Right?
Yeah.
If he needs any, because that's the thing, we don't know.
You don't know.
We don't know if by 18 he's going to progress enough to be independent and make a decision by himself, or if he's going to be 40 and still,
Mm.
I don't know. And we need to, I think that us as parents, we need to have a sense of planning and curiosity of, okay, let's plan, but let's plan based on different scenarios.
Yeah.
Not only one, like before, I thought I was an American dream, bought a house, got,
Yeah.
corporate world and all that. But now I learned that every time I make a decision, I need to make it in three, four different scenarios, just in case.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those conversations, thinking long term, even though you're here, present, some way, somehow that conversation needs to come in. Like for as an example, we started talking about, okay, if I'm not here, the guardian. I would love, for example, my mom, because she is amazing. Now,
Mm.
physically, can she manage
Mm-hmm.
a child, a Christian who is so hyperactive? He needs a lot of attention. That energy he has is amazing. How is his grandma, my mom, which
Yeah.
has her own conditions, can be able to,
Keep
physically
up with him. Yeah.
keep up? So that's why you need to have that deep, hard conversation about, okay, think about different scenarios, different people who you trust, who you don't, and start, at one point you will. Hopefully it's not too late having those conversations, but you need to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's good. So you got the diagnosis, and what is the exact diagnosis? Like I've heard there's different levels on autism
He's
spectrum.
mild. He's mild. It's
Okay.
considered mild. With time passing, I've heard a lot of, this is evolving, everything that has to do with autism. First, it
Yeah.
was, um, and again, maybe from a language kind of standpoint terms, I've heard about now it's neurodivergent. Before it was
Uh-huh.
now in the spectrum, then autism, and you continue to add words around this
Yeah.
topic. But he was on the spectrum and mild. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So you have the diagnosis, and so then what? What do you guys do with that?
Well, there is a process. He already had, I believe he already had an IEP because of the speech delay.
Okay.
And I would say the obstacles we had before in speech was because he was getting a lot of meltdowns. So out of
Okay.
a 45-minute session, half an hour was a meltdown or less than 5 minutes to calm him down. And it came to a point that we weren't taking advantage of the sessions. So
Mm-hmm.
deep dived and see, okay, now we gotta get what does he need? ABA. And we started looking around until we got him into a couple hours, get him approved and all that. But just I would say after the diagnosis, it's just getting into. the right mindset of
Hmm.
understanding that you need to create a plan based on there's no one size fits all.
Yeah.
You need to create a plan not only from maybe from a therapy standpoint, but for your home as well. Like something that we did is we started putting him in sports because he had too much energy.
Yeah.
We put him in soccer. It wasn't good because of elopement. So,
Okay.
open field.
Yep.
Yeah,
So trial and error. Let's
yeah,
find the
yeah.
one that fits. Yep.
Correct. Then we went to swimming, and instead of focusing on the lesson, was more of a play date. I love water, cannonball, and all that.
Yeah.
Until we found jujitsu. Jujitsu,
Oh, okay.
we've seen the progress in sleep. He wasn't sleeping before fully, was a couple hours. He would wake up, obviously wake us up
And be ready to go.
and be ready. Yeah, yeah, he would
You're
sleep.
like, son, it's 2 a.m.
I know a couple hours and
Yeah.
he was fully recharged and we were not.
Yeah.
But with jiu-jitsu, he's been able to sleep the full 8 hours.
Okay.
We then got like a weighted blanket, like
Okay.
the
Hmm.
putting that to um we cut down on bread and all that. We now he's more of a protein, I would say. Uh,
Okay.
Even though he's very picky for that, but trying to find ways to be able to incorporate meats and eggs and for example. So we did aside from the therapy itself,
Yeah.
I think we took more of accountability approach and say, okay, we believe that true therapy begins at home.
Hmm.
That what can we do here? Okay, so if he has a lot of energy and I don't want him climbing the sofa, uh, the
Yeah.
the the table, he wanted to get the chandelier and
Oh, geez.
yeah. So we
Wee.
no, no. So we gotta do something. So jiu-jitsu has been good. We also walk. If he can go to jiu-jitsu, for example, one day we go walk and we do a little bit of exercise. But that for for us has been a game changer. So
Yeah.
therapy can be one thing, and there's different type of therapies. There's no wrong therapy. There's people that say, "Hey, I don't know if ABA didn't work for me or speech."
Hmm.
I don't know, and I think nobody knows. That's very unique for the family. But
Hmm.
what I can say is that while he is at home, he needs to be doing something constructive.
Hmm.
And for us, we believe that jujitsu calms him down, helps him sleep, helps him regulate. He imitates other children, so that's why he stays put. He's disciplined. He's not eloping. So for
Hmm.
us, we see this what we're doing at home as a complement of the therapy he is taking.
Yeah. And what therapy is he in?
ABA for now.
Just ABA. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that in clinic or do they come to your home?
Oh, the school.
Oh, at the school.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. There's a
So,
RBT, and when it's summer, obviously here,
okay.
or he would go to a clinic, but right now it's in school.
Okay. And then the things that they work on with him in ABA, does that transfer to home? Like, do you then, I guess, quote unquote, practice what he's learning in the
Yeah,
home as well? So
yeah.
what does that look like?
Like for example, but this was more in summer, I think, because we wanted to really take him off tablets, take him off
Yep. Hmm.
TV time because it was too much. It was too much. So
Yeah.
that's where we talked to the RBT and reinforced that. So that's another reason why we got him into sports. Um, because of that, trying to take him away from the tablet time.
Hmm.
Uh, so another reinforcement, thankfully, my wife is also the RBT, so she
Hmm.
has that, dynamic. Try to always like, give him responsibilities, or for example, after you do this, pick up the toys, or at this time, we're trying to also put him to sleep at the same time every night.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of things that I think help
Yeah.
the session. But in regards to reinforcement, I think it's just around redirecting him. doing the any task that he has to do in school. We're trying to we don't do it with him, but we're next to him, like, okay, now what you need to do,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
trying to get the pen the right way, you know,
Yeah.
just trying our best.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
Mhm.
So maybe some more predictability for him.
Yeah,
And so can we talk about diet? Because I want to go back to that. You brought up that you changed his diet.
yeah.
What, tell me more about that. Like, how did that come about and what does that look like?
Yeah, so we obviously we are Hispanic. My wife's Cuban, I'm Puerto Rican, and we love bread.
Yeah.
Love bread, we love coffee. But from his side, he loves bread as well, and it's used to in our household for years to breakfast is with bread. You know, you
hmm
eggs, but there's a loaf, bread. So after researching, going to YouTube, obviously there's a lot of information out there.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
you get overwhelmed.
Totally.
But we knew that at the end of the day, having any type of artificial juices, now he just water, uh,
Okay.
no bread, no, try to eliminate sugars as much as possible
Okay.
and trying to incorporate fruits, vegetables, which has been hard. I
Yeah.
can come here and paint a story that it's very hard because when he's so picky,
Yeah.
it's hard to be able to incorporate something we've tried. I don't know, from putting, let me see, let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Uh, let's say if it's a steak, um, and we try to put it like in a wrap, for example,
hmm
he wouldn't like he would take out the meat and eat the meat and leave the wrap.
Yeah.
But then we put it in like in a spinach wrap, which is green.
Okay.
But now that's where he said, okay, well, let me. So it's trying to
Trial and error.
yeah.
Even with the sports, like you're just kind of
Mm,
seeing what's gonna work, what's
yeah,
gonna click with him.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we know that's healthy in regards to the results from the diet. I don't know because we've done everything at the same time, jiu-jitsu.
Sure. That's
I
hard.
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where to say, oh, this is because of the foods.
hmm
But what I can say more from a holistic standpoint that he's been able to progress a lot. And for us, it's amazing because we try to celebrate the small wins.
hmm
So anything we see and we just are happy and trying to do our best.
Yeah. So he has ABA. You guys have made some changes to just like eating, sleeping habits, physical, moving his body. He's on an IEP. What does the IEP look like? What did you have to specifically ask for things, or did the school say,
Right.
here's typically
Oh,
what we do?
I think both. I think
Okay.
from our side is it was more to understand the accommodations.
Yeah.
Because I think before when we started, it was like we would just say yes, 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 and we didn't really challenge the
Yeah.
nobody, right? They were a couple of people on there. They would just say, hey, if you want to invite somebody, you can, and this is it. And
Yeah.
always very polite, but we as parents were like, I don't know, kind of like
hmm
intimidated. And,
hmm
and we just agreed. We okay.
hmm
Then after time, I said, yeah, but I really need to understand why
mm
this why he needs a little bit more time in this side. So just getting more understanding, I would say, has helped us a lot because
hmm
again, I think any parent just agrees and
Yeah.
doesn't really challenge the fact that okay, why are they putting this, right? Even though they say, hey, you have the possibility of modifying it a couple of times a year, or this are do you agree? And we just stay quiet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now we try to understand it a little bit better.
Well, and I think that's common for parents who
That's
are
right.
new to the IEP and 504 plan, procedures, how that goes, because you just think, oh, they're going to tell me and I'm just going
Yeah,
to, okay. But I think, yeah, it's, if anybody hears anything, like it's okay to say,
yeah,
actually, why are we doing this? Or actually, can we try this because we know that works at home
right.
and shape it? Because it's a team.
It's a team.
Yeah.
It's a team, and the same thing. like you just mentioned, it's important. I think it's a team in different areas, and not only from the educational or academic point of view, but also from a financial view. You also, as a parent, need to develop or create your own team from a financial point of view. I think it's very important because we're dealing with a lot of topics, and
Hmm.
you have, for example, and I don't want to be off guard, but I just want to mention because you mentioned team. As
Yeah.
time you have a ABA, RBT, I've seen people having even an IP coach. In
Yeah.
that team, I think it's very important from a financial view in regards to if you have an insurance agent, try to have a very good accountant, a very good attorney that specializes in special needs, and make sure that all of them are synchronized and talk to each other because at the end of the day, it's for everybody's best interest, right? In the family.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that's important to
Yeah.
remind people too is like you don't have to do this on your own.
No.
You can create a team of, so many different supports
Yeah.
that can come around you and support you
Yeah.
through this journey. So, yeah, that's really important. I am curious how you and your wife take care of yourselves because I can imagine mostly because I know how hard it is to parent a child with special needs and it's exhausting. And at the end of the day, it's like, is it bedtime yet? So, what do you guys do to make sure that your cup is being filled?
That's a good question. I think it's all about for us, it was more around when we were in the acceptance phase.
Mm-hmm.
We had very good conversations. I think that's something that it's self-care too, being able to vent to each other, to
Mm-hmm.
have that time and say, hey, what do you think of this? What I wasn't raised this way, so I'm doing this because any parent, when you start having the mindset that you can adapt to this new
Mm-hmm.
reality, you need to be more flexible, you need to be more patient. That's also self-care because you're not going against the tsunami, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just going with the flow and understanding. There's a business coach that said one quote one time that was, I need to apply this to me, and he said applied more to business and sales. So he said,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, this is not your fault, but it's your problem."
Mm.
And that for me that day, I was, oh my God, maybe if we frame it a little bit, it's not our fault, but it's our responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when we start seeing stuff like that, it's not our fault Christian has autism, but it's our
Mm-hmm.
responsibility. And it's started to help us, I would say, heal that thing that we're going against, that denial, that pride, that ego, and start
Yeah.
being more accountable and taking ownership of our family and I would say brought us more unity because in special needs family, the divorce rate is super
Mm-hmm.
high.
Yeah.
I think that part of self-care is one, again, the acceptance, being able to adapt, being able to understand that you're not alone, but at the same time, however you want to see it, this is your responsibility and the way you react and the way you strategize and the way you do everything at home will determine a lot of stuff in the future.
Yeah.
So that quote, like, it's not your fault, it's your problem applied to us. It's not your fault, it's your responsibility. Just helped us out. Okay, so it is what it is. There's nothing
Mm-hmm.
to say, there's nothing I can do. Let's make this happen and see what you agree with what I agree with, where how we can meet in the middle and so forth. And for us, it's been a blessing.
Yeah. Well, so
It's been
how,
hard. It's been hard, but it's been a
yeah,
blessing.
yeah, yeah. Um, so with parenting then, I can imagine that you guys have had to change your approach to parenting,
Yeah.
and, getting on the same page with that,
Yeah.
can be hard. So what are some of the things that you've done to adapt to parenting Christian?
Yeah. One is our circle is smaller.
Okay.
Right. Before it was more people and more friends, but as time passed by, we had to go out less. We didn't go out to restaurants for some time.
Yeah.
Even he has sensory issues, even going to the bathroom and hearing the blower, the one that drives
Oh,
your.
yes, it's so loud.
Yeah. So it came to a point that we just stopped going out for some
Yeah.
time. But we've adjusted, and I would say not even adjusted, is understanding that the way we were raised, which everybody's in I don't know if this happened to you, but my case, a lot of even the closest family members are very close in the sense that a lot of people live with their grandparents and
Mm-hmm.
know, and now knowing that, okay, this is even if we go to another family's member's house, he needs to behave in a certain
Yeah.
way. Even I would behave in my uncle's house, but in
Yeah.
this case, it was more okay. Don't don't do this, or don't try not say this, or even talking to the family member to prep something, or hey,
Yeah.
hide any type of lamps you have
Yeah. Yeah.
before we go because
Yeah.
chaos is gonna happen. So it's being able to learn how to communicate and articulate to the people who surround you, because it's not only parenting Christian,
Yeah.
it's being able to express, hey, cousin, I'm going right now.
Yeah.
No, Christian has something around this or that was before, not now, but Christian has this. I would suggest if you can, and everybody tried as their most, and that for us was amazing. We did
Yeah.
appreciate that a lot. So adjusting in the parenting would be that, just learn how to communicate in a way that you're just trying to avoid situations that,
Yeah.
like meltdowns or so forth. You just want to have a good time, and just be able to manage everything correctly and also give him a good experience, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. You mentioned earlier about how your daughter has maybe picked up on
Mhm.
some.
Yeah.
I see that often too with a lot of the families I work with and how frustrating that can be for them to be like, what do we do? So what does that look like for you? And is there anything that you guys have found that have worked to help with that?
In speech, I would say it affected her speech, because obviously with him not having a conversation or saying other stuff, obviously we believe that. We don't know if it's true, but we
Mm-hmm.
believe that her delay in speech, uh, one of the factors is caused by not being able to practice with a
Mm-hmm.
bigger
With a
sibling.
peer. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's something that we believe it's affected. She goes to speech therapy.
Okay.
And in her daycare, now is when she's being able to socialize. So
Oh,
we've
okay.
seen her progress a lot. Plus, we've seen a fair share of fevers coming from the day.
Love that.
Yeah, so between those two, yeah, she's progressing, and we're seeing that at her pace.
Yeah.
That's something that, from a parenting standpoint, we try to let them, progress as they can.
Mm-hmm.
We're not putting deadlines, we're not putting any pressure. We're just trying to reinforce both of them
Mm-hmm.
as we can, as and within their limits, right? We're not, there's no competition, there's nothing.
Yeah.
Just let them be.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. So I guess tell me now about because we've talked a lot about Christian, but now I'm curious about like how you and your wife basically took this this journey of our son now has this diagnosis and making some big changes, and you both made some changes with your careers. So
Hmm.
um
Yeah.
tell me what that looked like for you to go from corporate to what you're doing now, and then tell us about what you're doing.
Yeah, so I came from corporate America, traveling 70 to 80% of the time for years.
Oh, wow.
To Latin America, and but I did like it.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, because it was very nice. I was seeing all technology. I was
Yeah.
very in sync with that. And I thought that living the life, I thought that based on that lifestyle, I was going to create my family and the retirement as other executives. Obviously life throws you a curveball, but COVID came by.
Hmm.
Um, was able to be here. A lot of, like I mentioned, it since it's reduced. But when COVID released, I started traveling again with that same intensity. I
Okay.
think that Christian wasn't good with transitions.
Yeah.
Had a lot of difficulty, obviously, seeing me for so many months.
Yeah.
And day out, whenever he wanted, I was in the computer, but he would come in, pass by, and from there not seeing me or anything. So I started looking for other employers,
Okay.
startups to be able to see if I can do the same, but less
Hmm.
trouble. And obviously going into a startup, you're using different hats. You're an accountant, you're
Yep.
sales, you're everything. So it ended up me be working more. And then I wasn't in the right mindset either.
Yep.
I was there, but I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I just at that moment just parted ways for from any type of opportunity. But prior to that, I would say long story short, I started looking for my own financial advisor and planner because I was asking all these questions like, hey, what
Mhm.
happens if I'm not here?
Yeah.
What I mentioned about the guardian, and everybody just wanted to sell me something or recruit.
Mm. Hmm.
I got very frustrated because what I was looking for was like a consultant being able to talk to me about just in general special needs trust,
Yeah.
guardianship, power of attorneys, how does financial services reinforce it? Because like I mentioned, the 18, everything synchronizes. When you have an attorney creating a special needs trust or all that, and you don't have any assets, you don't have anything, I would say it's very highly recommended to be able to then talk to financial services, get insurance, life insurance, for example,
Yeah. Yeah.
fund the special needs trust with the life insurance if you don't have any assets, and so forth. So I just wanted somebody to have that conversation because based on that, I'm going to determine what I need or start knocking doors. And again, everybody just wanted to sell something very transactional,
Yeah.
and that's it. And so I got frustrated. I was already in financial services, so but really didn't tap in 100%. And I just said, you know what, let me see if I can help families like mine. So I
Hmm.
created a couple blogs, but none of them seem to resonate until this one. This is the Autism Voyage,
Okay.
and it's a blog that talks about three categories. One is daily living, which
Hmm.
talks about questions any parent, topics about questions any parent would ask at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., like I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so it talks about music therapy. It talks about
Okay.
is ABA only for autism? It
Yeah.
talks about haircuts. It talks about
Okay.
swimming. And it's a blog that is very comprehensive, even though it's done through different sources. So I curate them. I don't write them. I'm
Okay.
not that highly intelligent, but I use even AI to build them because I
Okay.
believe that it's just a starting point for any parent.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's in daily living. I have one called life planning that talks about more about the financial part.
Okay.
Disability income insurance for parents, trust funds for disabled children, letter of intent for families with special needs, and talks about all these topics. And the last one would be something I call entrepreneur. Uh,
Okay.
why? Because it's very difficult to manage 9 to 5 job when your son or daughter has 28 hours of therapy a week
Yep.
or more.
Yep.
So my thought process is there must be a skill set that parents need to could develop to be able to buy their time back, to increase their income, something because if you're only depending on the government and you're only depending on family, it's going to come to a point that that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
And when I say entrepreneur, it can be either getting a promotion within your own job or leaping to a small business, however that suits you. But at
Yeah.
least get that skill set, get that income flowing, and try to better your buying your time back and bettering that lifestyle for you and the child, right?
Yeah.
And that's for the blog perspective.
Okay.
From the services perspective, I do comprehensive insurance planning.
Okay.
I don't do any investments, no Bitcoin, nothing. My
Okay.
my main thing is insurance planning, and I focus on the three main areas, which that for me as a father, that's what I focus it on. Well, the first one is income protection.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically a coverage that would replace your income or would provide a lump sum amount just in case you get sick.
Yeah.
Like for example, if Christian depends on me 100%, I don't know
Yeah.
when, and I get cancer, I get a
Mm-hmm.
stroke, I get into a car crash, I'm 2 years out. Usually, I don't see a lot of families that have 2 years of savings.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, so that's one strategy to make sure that your income, some way, somehow, is protected.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the second one, which is funding the trust. You can
Mm-hmm.
have a trust, but if it's not funded, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
So a lot of families use real estate, brokerage accounts, whatever mechanism. My mechanism, which I recommend, is life insurance. Simple, because it's predictable. When you have
Mm-hmm.
a brokerage account or real estate that fluctuates, I would say with
Yeah.
life insurance, it's very predictable and it's simple. So using that as a funding mechanism and the long-term care perspective because of a parent. If Christian
Yeah.
is 40 years old, I'm 80,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I need a nursing home, I need an assisted living facility, they're becoming very expensive.
Yeah.
This is another strategy we use to get a coverage that would pay out for that stage in life.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I believe in, and that's what I focus on when I help families. But to be really blunt, there's no secret product, there's no secret
Yeah.
sauce. It's old school term whole life, and a lot
Yeah.
of people just don't want to hear that. But in reality, social media uses all these hooks to bring you in,
Yeah.
but there's no secret sauce. Whatever you
Well, I think the secret sauce might be, though, that you would understand
correct,
them,
I would say that.
right? Like that
That's
would be a level where you could be like, yes, I see you. I live it out too. And so let's
correct.
do this together. Yeah.
Correct, but that's good that you mentioned that, and thank you. But I was referring more on the product side. It's the same thing. I think it's more the way it's applied to a problem statement.
Yeah.
Like, as an example, I've had clients that say, and in the beginning, oh, I already have a life insurance. I say, perfect. Does it consider your guardian? They say, what do you mean? I say, well,
Mm.
because if that person is assuming responsibility for your child, and
Hmm.
most likely they will become a caregiver, they might need to leave their work. Is that life insurance also considering their income? Or at least leave
Mm.
something for them because
Oh,
they're
good thing to think about.
you want to know that. Or for example, a lot of professionals say, hey, buy a life insurance that if you pass away, your family's going to become a millionaire. Yes, but what if you don't die? You get sick.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
going to happen?
Yeah.
So, so for me, you're not acquiring a policy or coverage. You're more acquiring a strategy, like you
Yeah.
just mentioned.
Yeah.
Uh, but in reality, that's it. It's straightforward, just conversation, asking the right questions, and see if it meets your needs.
Yeah. So your website, is that where they can find you and contact you, but also read about all of the curated blogs that you've provided? So like they don't have to search the entire internet for like all the things. They can just come. Okay. So that's where we're going to find you.
Correct, right? There's also
Okay.
resources there. I have a letter of intent. A letter of intent is just a document. There's other names of calling it profile. I call it letter of intent. It's not a legal document, but it is a document very essential for, right? It's very essential for families like ours. It basically describes the child or the loved
Hmm.
one. It has in the letter, it has triggers. For example, mine, Christian is allergic to peanuts. He
Oh,
so you have all that. Why? Because for example, if I am in the hospital with Ellie, my wife, for 5 days, and somebody needs to take care of him, a babysitter or somebody, I would hand off that letter of intent.
yeah.
It has everything from triggers, routines, the therapist phone number, any type of contact information, everything's there so that babysitter at least knows, okay, I cannot give him peanuts. He
Yeah.
he sleeps at 8 p.m. He
He
shouldn't
needs jujitsu.
eat jujitsu. Not so if he doesn't go to jujitsu, he needs to walk.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
that there. So that resource is there on the page.
Okay.
And the page is the www.autismvoyage.com. There you
Okay.
subscribe to my newsletter. You can browse blogs. You can download that resource or book a
Okay.
call.
Yeah. Okay. And I will link that in the show notes so everyone would be able to easily find that. So I appreciate all of that. I appreciate your heart and just how you and your wife kind of pivoted and made it work for your family so that you can do what's best for your kids.
Yeah.
So, and that's hard. That's really hard.
It is, it
Yeah.
is. And I hope that, you know, nobody feels alone, nobody left behind.
Yeah.
I think that this is an underserved community, and
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe that professionals like us are the ones that are going to change that, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
that's why I'm trying to do everything and centralize and have the best technology, the best information, because I truly believe that parents need it and they need a place that they can just vent, they can
Yeah.
talk. That's that. So I do have other projects in the future, but I'll let you know.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Well, before we wrap it up, I always ask my guests to give me three resources. What would three resources you would recommend to our listeners who might be kind of, faced with some hard days with their kiddos?
Resources. Well, I would say that the letter of intent would be one.
Okay. Yep.
I also have one which is ebook. I think it's very important to talk about siblings.
Okay.
Because for example, in our household, Amanda is not diagnosed, but we still need to some way somehow find a balance
Yeah.
when raising them, right?
Yeah.
And I've heard that's also in the site.
Okay. Okay.
I have an ebook
Cool.
around siblings.
Okay.
Um, I would say, you know what, just going to Autism Speaks. I know that they do have a lot of resources,
Mm-hmm.
and just I would say just get this sense of curiosity to
Mm-hmm.
look, but to everybody to start looking, to start investigating, but also follow their gut feeling because there's no one size fits all.
Yeah, that's
So
so true.
yeah, so I would just say curious, learn about it, and nobody should feel alone at this moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate you. I appreciate all of you taking the time to even share and tell us more about Christian. He sounds like a pretty cool little guy.
He's the best.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, thank you for your time today. And I will link everything that you mentioned in the show notes so people can easily find all of that. And yeah, we're gonna call it a day and you can get on with your day and
Perfect.
hopefully we might have more heat here like what you have there.
Oh,
I'm
here's
hoping that we're over. I know we still have
Miami.
some snow on the ground here, so
Miami's like being in the Caribbean all year
oh,
long, so
I'm so jealous.
it's the best.
Please send some our way.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, yes. Thank you for your time today.
Perfect. Thank you.